Hello, and welcome to tonight's Vicki and Carl Zeiger Virtual Insight Seminar for Krapp's Last Tape by Samuel Beckett. I'm Lamar Perry, one of the associate producers at The Globe, and on behalf of Barry Edelstein, our Erna Fincy Viterbi Artistic Director, and Tim Shields, our Audrey S. Geisel Managing Director, I'm so glad you can join us tonight as we chat with director Patricia Mcgregor and Ron Cephas Jones. I am coming to you from the ancestral home of the Kumeyaay, who have been the stewards of these lands for generations. Before we get started, I'd like to take a second to recognize the people who made this event possible. A massive thank you to Vicki and Carl Zeiger for their generous support of the Vicki and Carl Zeiger Virtual Insight Seminars. The Globe and I are so grateful to you. And without further ado, please let me introduce our brilliant guests, Patricia Mcgregor and Ron Cephas Jones. Globe audiences will recognize resident director Patricia Mcgregor, having directed the world premiere of J.C. Lee's What You Are, our Globe for All production of A Midsummer's Night Dream, and our current Globe for All production of Shakespeare Call and Response. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Patricia Mcgregor.
Hi, everyone.
Patricia, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Good to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're in the middle of rehearsal for us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
And everyone, please be on the lookout for more information on our website for the premiere of Shakespeare Call and Response. Now, without further ado, I have to welcome our artist and esteemed friend and colleague, two-time Emmy Award winner, Ron Cephas Jones. Brother Ron, good morning.
Good morning, brother. Good afternoon here, actually.
How are you? How are you doing? You're coming to us from New York, correct?
From New York. I'm in rehearsal for Lynn Nottage's premiere play called Clyde at the Helen Hayes, produced by Second Stage. So second week of rehearsal, day off. So I'm glad to be here with people that I love dearly.
Well, it's lovely to have you both here. I don't want to take up too much of your time because you two are some of the busiest people that I know. So I will dive right into it. So Patricia, I'll start with you. So Krapp's was conceived as a part of the Globe's What is Theater Now initiative. Could you share with our audience a bit about your cohort and what the mission and inception of that project was?
So I've been thinking about Krapp's Last Tape for a while. I studied at the Beckett Center my junior year in college. I went to Dublin and studied the Beckett Center and saw a production of Krapp's Last Tape in a basement and was riveted. It was such a mystery. It was such a poetic mystery that haunted me for a long period of time. So I've been thinking about Krapp's for a while, and I've actually been in conversation with Ron. I approached him, I sent him a message a few years ago, and I said, Ron, I'm thinking about Krapp's. He said, oh my God, I studied that piece, the absurdist, all of that. So we've been excited about it for a while. And when the cohort came together and Barry asked us to consider the question of what is theater now, and how could we create pieces in the environment of the pandemic with all of those restrictions that would also speak to the moment, I thought immediately of Krapp's, and I thought immediately of how the isolation that Krapp experiences and the strange way of rethinking your whole life and what you're losing in this pandemic and what you hold on to. I thought, oh, that could be really resonant and hopefully achievable because it's one person and there was only one person I wanted to do it with, and that was Ron Cephas Jones. So when he said he was interested and available, and we originally conceived it as a Zoom thing because we were in a world where nobody could even be, in a room together. And then as time went on, we thought, oh, we could do this workshop version where, this thing we've been really excited about could speak to this moment and we could explore it. So that was the birth of the piece.
Thank you, thank you. And Ron, to you, I'll ask, what attracted you to this project in this moment? I think there's a particular significance of seeing Krapp's Last Tape coming out of quarantine while still in a pandemic, but what really drew you to this work in this moment?
I think the circumstances really, when Patricia and I was first talking about it, it was inconceivable that we would be in a pandemic, so I think the circumstances drove us to that idea. Initially, like Patricia said, I had studied theater of the absurd in college, the whole idea of existential writing, Beckett, Pinter, Ionesco, Salt, and Krapp's Last Tape was one of those plays that stuck with me for a long time. And so it was amazing when Patricia mentioned it to me because we did a production of Katori Hall's play, Hurt Village. And we just clicked, you know, and I thought she had such a brilliant mind as a director, and specificity is how I like to work. Very specific things. What am I doing? Why am I doing? All those kind of things. So the match was perfect. And then she came up with the idea of Krapp, and I told her my history about it and how I studied it, and something that I always wanted to explore. For me, it was very much like organized chaos. I'm a jazz aficionado as well, so it was like Ornette Coleman music to theater to me. You know, it's all displaced ideas and thoughts that have some way come together with this incredible meaning. So that's the impetus for how we kind of eventually got together. Timing is always everything. You being at the Old Globe, Barry Edelstein being willing to open up a workshop in a time where it just wasn't happening, but you, everyone at the Globe stayed true to the nature of who they are, is that to continue to explore theater and to bring about new, vibrant ideas to the stage, you know. So kudos to Barry Edelstein, you, and everyone there for making that happen, because we had a safe environment. It was COVID safety, and we managed to put this incredible workshop together, you know, and the perseverance of Patricia and even her husband, Freedom, lent his hand. So everyone helped us pull this magnificent piece together.
Thank you, thank you. And I also have to say thank you to you too, because for our audience at home to know, Krapp's was the first rehearsal process that really welcomed the Globe back to in-person rehearsals. You know, as Patricia noted for us earlier, we had originally conceived this project via the medium that you're consuming this interview.
The Zoom,
right now,
that's right.
Zoom. But it truly was such a special way, I think, to christen the theater, which then I ask you both, in this moment of coming back into the rehearsal room after what some are calling a 20-month intermission, after substantive change in the world, what was that experience like? How did you feel it affected your artistry? What was different coming back into the space? What were those initial feelings and reflections for you all as we came back into rehearsal in person?
Well, I'll say for me, I always try to center rigor and love. Those are my two words that I try to, you know, to Ron's point about specificity. One of my favorite notes ever, the actor Chuck Woody in his very British way was like, "You're tedious, Patricia, but to the point of excellence," you know? And so what was nice here was that there was the opportunity in these strange days to have both rigor and love in increased measure. And so I feel like the love that surrounded it this was my second in-person piece. I'd done something at Baltimore Center Stage, so I'd gotten a little more used to it, but you don't know where anyone is coming from. We had all been off of our routine for a year and a half. People were dealing with the righteous rage of this, these unanswered calls for social justice. People were dealing with, you know, death in mass through COVID and a disruption of their life. So everyone, the fragility of the day-to-day was on the surface for everyone. And that's like from the person setting up the ladder to put a light, you know, to the incredible Ron Cephas Jones, to everyone. So I felt like it was in some ways very strange, but luckily, because the Globe really supported in a beautiful way, we went down into this basement and they hung up, you know, Dave and Ben and everyone, they really made it a laboratory. We hung up black curtains and the things that we needed were provided. So while it was a very, you know, it was a very high-end laboratory in that we had the things that we needed to be able to experiment. And then we were able to really dive into that text with rigor. And Ron and I, who, you know, there was like from the first time we worked together, it was such a love fest. And I think we found it's like two dance partners who are hearing the music again. And we kind of figured out, oh, okay, this is how it moves. This is what we need. And I'll also call into, you know, into the room, Joshua Peters, who was our cinematographer, who came in and really helped seamlessly, because how that dance, that's a new partner in the dance. Yes. How that dance worked, the fact that, you know, he and his partner came in with such support in the same way. So I just have to say, it felt like a really wonderful place to do vulnerable, rigorous work.
Thank you. Ron, the same question to you, particularly transitioning from typically working in TV and film, coming back into theatrical space, coming back after 20 months of the pandemic. What was it like for you? What was your experience of coming back into the rehearsal room?
Well, you know, artistically, I'm still working on that, man. It was 7 years since I had done a theater piece. And I was just talking to Patricia about that earlier. You know, I'm still getting this muscle, this long-term memory muscle back, where in film, you do these choppy scenes and they're long days, but you're not standing and doing stuff all day. You do a scene, you sit down, you go to your trailer, whatever the case may be. So that was the beginning of me coming back and working that muscle again, learning scripts of dialogue. And so that part was a little difficult for me, I must admit. And it was about reworking and bringing back alive that particular muscle and the way I study. There's longer hours of study when you work in the theater as opposed to television and film, at least from my experience. I'm only speaking from my experience. So from that point of view, it was wonderfully difficult, right? It was like getting back in there and like really like, oh, theater, you know, every day coming to rehearsal, you know, being with the same people, working out stuff. And then, no, I think it should be, what do you think? So that was beautiful, but it was difficult as well. From a pandemic point of view, also beautifully difficult, you know, having to wear your mask all the time and testing and having to be aware of that kind of thing. No coffee in the green room. You have to bring all your stuff in and, you know, like little things that were pandemic aware that I was still getting used to. But on the back end of that, you see how people come together when times get hard. And when we all work together with that other ingredient Patricia mentioned, and which is very important, love, it's amazing what we can accomplish, you know. And I think that this is an example of that. You know, we accomplished something really incredible in a time that was very difficult to do. And we're still, you know, we're still working with it. You know, we're still in this pandemic mode. We haven't got out of it yet, but it's optimistic that we can see, but there's a way. There's a way. If we all pitch in and do the right thing, we can get back to the boards and make some great theater.
Yeah. And I'll say for folks at home, it was really interesting and beautiful, Ron, to see you come back into a rehearsal space, because again, audience at home, that is my entry point to you in your career. I started working with Ron at the Classical Theater of Harlem, watching you do Prospero every night in the Tempest with Carl Cofield. So to see you come back into the space, to see you be working those muscles again, was really magical, man. You are truly one of the tremendous talents in the field, both theatrical and in television and film.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know our MFAs appreciated being able to get to watch you work, man. It truly is a masterclass from you both to see the level of artistry. I want to ask you before I let you go today, because Krapp is still in development. This is not the final product. This was a laboratory and investigation. To you both, I'll ask and offer, what for you were you attempting or were hoping to work through or discover or play with in this particular laboratory, and what work do you hope to continue to do in the future as you move towards production, hopefully?
I'll say for me, one of the my sister's a dancer, and she often says, you've got to learn the moves so that then you can dance the dance. And so I feel like with this particular thing, the dramaturgy of understanding what word to word, sometimes letter to letter. So the first part of our process was just that deep dive into, what does he mean? What is art? For some people, you know, the way in which, if you look at the script, there is an abstraction in it that finds form and then becomes abstract, but we have to be absolute in what we think he's saying. We have to be absolute in what he's remembering when. And so the first phase of work, which is a different heavy lift for this work than it is with pieces that are less obscure. And I think for artists like Ron and I, we really nerd out about this stuff. We really go back in and we say, what's the reference? What's the article? So I feel like there was a baseline of like, let's do that work so we understand the roadmap of this text. Okay, now let's start to build the character work. Okay, now let's start. And it was one of the things, that I thought was really wonderful in terms of the support. As we started to craft the layers of who Ron is, or who Ron is as Krapp, we thought, okay, what are some of the important design elements? So the wig, some of the costume pieces, what does it mean for a Black man to be doing this role? I think this was the first time, and I don't want to ignore those things. I want to look at that as depth and added value in terms of making the meaning happen. So those were some of the things that, A, what is the text saying, just period? And B, how do we, Ron and I, as who we are, bringing all of our culture with us, where does that meet? And I feel like those were things we got to really rigorously play with. And in terms of the next time, I feel like there's fun in some of the physicality, some of the like next layer of what some of the, some of those things I feel like, and how this piece might pair. We're thinking about like, where does jazz come into it? Where does the musical score come in? How do we take some of those things to the next level? But I was really excited about what we were able to unearth in draft one in terms of what the text was saying and how that meets who Ron's soul force is, which is so powerful. And then I'm excited about what we explore in the next round.
Thank you, Patricia. And Ron, for you, what was the heart of your investigation this time around? What are you hoping to investigate as we continue in the future?
One of the things that we broke open were 3 topics: race, class, and culture. And so in Beckett, there's a very deep traditional Irish thing that's happening. And there are these words that are very traditionally Irish, and even describes some of the land and the culture. And so Patricia in particular, dug in and really started to think about, how do we make that work for us? We can't, and we realize we don't have to change the language, that the language works when you expand your mind and take out this idea of race. And here's this man who has a shade of color on his skin, and this is a very delicate topic. But in art, you can actually go in and figure out what that is. And so we've had a lot of conversation, hence we designed him. We brought in the whole Afrocentric lens, and we matched it with the lens of Beckett and what he was doing. And somehow it just seemed to fit. Patricia found a way to make it fit, man. And that's what's so brilliant about this piece. When you see it, you'll hear all those Irish things, but you'll see a man who looks so Afrocentric. And some people describe the character as a clown. So there are some pratfally comedic type stuff that's also layered in this thing. I mean, it's a cornucopia of brilliance that I just think Patricia had in her vision, and that I was open to, and found that being able to do stuff like that I don't get a chance to do as an actor. You have to be in these kind of situations and work with these kind of people in order to expand as an actor and continue to try to grow and do work that's difficult, hard, and work that you need to really intellectually work out. And then it comes out in this beautiful tapestry of theater. So those are some of the things that we want to continue to open up as a live performance, but also as eventually, hopefully, a filmed performance that we may be able to take to festivals. And that's our long-term goal. But immediately we want to get back into the workshop and put together a live performance. And hopefully we can be post-COVID. But even then, now we're at least at the situation where we can put people into the theater. And I think that seeing it live is really what it's all about, so yeah.
Agreed. Well, before I let you both go, I just want to quickly open the floor to you all to extend any other offerings, comments, or things you feel the audience should know as they enter viewing Krapp's Last Tape, this laboratory offering.
I don't have anything else. I'm just saying thank you for you all for joining this laboratory. I'm excited that we filmed it as an opportunity for more people to be a part of the lab process. I really do want to highlight that it's a lab process. And as you'll see, we had a limited group of people who got to come in. And in sharing it, we want you to feel like you were one of the people who sat in that room. knowing that it was a laboratory and being a part of that working. So you are part of it. And I just want to say to Ron, you're a legend, you're a hero, you're a friend. And I'm ever, ever, ever grateful for you rolling up your sleeves and jumping into this laboratory with me. You are in my heart forever. Thanks.
That means a lot to me, Patricia. Thank you very much coming from you. I feel the same way. You know that, though. You are the Lady Mac. You are definitely the Lady Mac. And Lamar, thank you for everything, brother. I'm so proud of you for being where you are and doing some powerful things over there at the Globe. They are honored to have you, believe me. And so everyone that's listening, please go and watch the performance and give Lamar your feedback. And we are really incredibly excited about bringing this piece back live. And I hope you'll come and be there and support us. But thank you to Barry and everyone at the Old Globe. But I can't say enough. I'm about to be in tears, so I'm going to just stop right there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Patricia. Wise words and also meaningful words to me, friends and my family. To everyone at home, thank you so much for joining us. Krapp's Last Tape is generously sponsored in part by Bank of America. Virtual programs at the Old Globe are supported in part by the Conrad Previs Foundation, and financial support is provided by the City of San Diego. The Theodore and Audrey Geisel Fund provides leadership support for the Old Globe's year-round activity. Thank you for watching and staying tuned. Continue to look for upcoming information about our in-person productions of our annual production of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Patricia Mcgregor's Shakespeare Call and Response, and Ebenezer Scrooge's San Diego Christmas Spectacular, and many, many more. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you all in person soon. Bye-bye.